Welcome back guys to another video, and in this video we're going to be going over the Inside Mind's top athletes through a talk by sports psychology expert Martin Hager. He's explaining to us the different types of mindsets that are seen in top pros, and he's going to give us an inside look so you guys can use it for whatever you guys want to do. Get yourself in that high level mindset and help you focus on whatever your goals are. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
Alright guys, let me fix up my camera. Here we are. So we're going to be going and giving it a look on what Martin Hager has to say. I'll be putting in some of my insight, give you some of my insight on what he's saying. Fix up my camera. Oh. Let's see what
when we look at Olympic sport at the highest level, there are clearly some athletes who always seem to get it right. For example, Usain Bolt, Olympic 100 meter, 200 meter champion, twice over in the 2008 Beijing Olympics and in the London Olympics. Michael Phelps, the most bemedaled Olympian of all time.
Yep.
These are athletes who clearly get it right, both psychologically and physiologically all of the time. It's also interesting to note that they have contrasting approaches.
Well, Michael Phelps has so many medals because in swimming there's like a bazillion medals you can possibly win. Because most people usually only have one like body type specific to a swimming skill, so like butterfly, freestyle.
He's listening to music.
But Michael Phelps is just good at all of them.
Contemplative approach.
He has the body type to win at everything. Plus he's incredible. He was incredibly hardworking with his training.
Their preparation for their events, and maybe a reason why they're successful. What happens when things go wrong? Here's another example. In the 2012 Olympics in London, in the soccer final, there were two finalists, Brazil and Mexico. Brazil were the undoubted favorites. They were expected to win. They were the reigning Olympic champions. They were extremely skilled. On paper, they were the best team. Mexico had made it to the final playing well, but they were unfancied. In the final, Mexico went at Brazil in an incredible display of attacking football. It was incredibly impressive to watch. And if you watch the Brazil players, their heads dropped. They seemed slightly defeated.
That's what happened.
They couldn't understand why they weren't performing as well as they were.
It's all about the mindset.
Perhaps they were complacent. Perhaps they had expected too much. Perhaps they were overconfident. Yep. The Mexicans had nothing to lose. They attacked with fervor, and they won the Olympic title. They were the Olympic champions over the fancied favorites. Perhaps sports psychology can explain why fancied champions may be overconfident and may fail when they're expected to win. And perhaps why underdogs take on the best and win, despite all the odds.
Yep.
Take another example. James Magnussen, a man with seemingly unshakable self-confidence. He said he was going to win the 100 meters sprint final in the pool at the
really confident right when they're about to do what they do.
Extremely confident. But in that race, he was out-touched on the line by Nathan Adrian by 1/100th of a second. And that was devastating for him. You could see his body language after. He was destroyed. Perhaps he was overconfident. Perhaps, though, his confidence in the events leading up to the actual final, perhaps his confidence belied an underlying low confidence. Perhaps he wasn't very confident inside when he should have been supremely confident of his abilities because he was the world leader in the event. So perhaps psychology may have played a part, but in particular, it may help when overcoming such a devastating defeat for the next event.
Just extruding that confidence, showing confidence, even if you're not confident, makes you more confident.
He was expected to win. He was amongst the favorites, certainly. And he's an extremely talented golfer. In fact, he's the one player that all of the people on the tour, all of the golfers on the tour, the PGA Tour, fear the most. And yet, on the day when he was leading, on the final day of the event, he was leading by 4 shots. He'd played superbly on the previous 3 days. He experienced a catastrophic drop in his performance. He shot a round of 80, and this is something that professional golfers can do in their sleep, certainly very easily. because they frequently shoot rounds of 70 or below, and that's a good shot. So 80 was a catastrophic failure, and he ended up tying for 15th place.
That is depressing.
So you'd
So
think
happens.
sort of
You could lose one, makes you lose
may have
another, and
impacted
then
on
lose
his
another.
mind.
It's like
However,
I've said before. There's a book I
only 8
read called
weeks
The Winner
later,
Effect.
He won the US
After you
Open,
win one,
and there was
you
no
win
sign
more,
of the
more,
lack
more,
of
more.
confidence
You know,
and
but
the fact
doesn't
that
mean
the
that when
pressure
you're
had got to
losing,
him
you can't
that
win.
was displayed
But when you're winning,
he
you
was in
can't
Augusta.
lose.
So it seemed that he picked up the
You have
pieces.
to
And what is it that made him
continuously
do
tell
so?
yourself,
Sports psychology may
okay, I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to turn it around if you lose.
So elite
To
athletes,
get yourself to
coaches,
actually
and the
turn it
people who
around.
surround
Truly believe that you can
athletes
turn it around.
know
Same
very
thing if
well the
you're
importance of
winning.
sports psychology, and they're
Continually
beginning to
believe that
embrace
you
it.
could keep on
Sports
winning, because if you
psychologists are often
stop
included
believing that you're going to
in
win,
the teams that
you won't be
surround
able to
athletes
win.
nowadays. What is sports psychology? Well, it's the science of and study and practice of mental preparation for sport. It involves identifying the techniques and strategies that athletes
Mental preparation is
and
extremely
use so that they
important
perform at their most
for
optimum.
sport. Extremely
It
important.
also helps athletes deal with setbacks and help them to come back from devastating defeats.
A lot of athletes get into like this
such
flow
as
state.
those by James
A lot of
Magnuson
people have
or
like
Rory McIlroy. So we'll just begin to unpack some of
well,
these
experts
strategies
try to
that
like
sports psychologists talk about.
hypnotize them. Like
So
Mike
looking
Tyson
inside
had
the
a
mind of a winner,
hypnotist
what factors
hypnotize
are
him
needed
before
to success
his
in sport? Well, clearly an athlete
world
has to be
champion
motivated.
boxing match.
Often
A
goals
little
that
bit
athletes
before
set describe
Custody
or,
Amato died, his boxing coach,
will
before he
demonstrate
died, his boxing
how
coach,
much effort
it's a very
and
famous
how much
story how
will
he
they
died
have
right before
to
he
win
became
in their
champ.
event. But sometimes
He had a
motivation
hypnotist
just
hypnotize him
isn't
that
enough.
he'll be world
An athlete
champ.
has to be confident. And confidence seems to be ubiquitous amongst high-performing performers. There are a number of
and it makes
strategies
you
that athletes
believe.
can use to boost their confidence. Another important factor is knowledge of the sport. So basically knowing your sport inside out.
If you don't
but
know
also
it, there's
knowing
no
your
way you
position.
can make
What are their
yourself
strengths and
believe
their
you're going to be
weaknesses?
good at something you've never done
One of the
before.
phrases coined by Clive Woodward,
At least be better
who
than
was
someone
the
who's really trained hard at
England
it.
coach at the time they won the Rugby World Cup in 2003. One of the phrases he coined was total rugby, leaving no stone unturned when it comes to performance. He was very famous for developing dossiers on the opposition, knowing their strengths, knowing their weaknesses, and where he could attack them, and how he could
It's similar
tactically
to
outwit
like
them.
in sport. I
And
really
that's
like watching
clearly
MMA.
important,
All these
in
people
sport these
study their
days. So
opponents and
using
all the techniques
psychology
that
to
they use.
understand the opposition as well as yourself.
And
Athletes are
planning
also very
ahead of
good at
time how
using
they're going to beat
routines,
them.
getting themselves in the right frame of mind, and we'll look at that in a few moments' time. Athletes are also good at handling pressure. If you look at Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps, they are cases in point. And anxiety management is clearly an important aspect of an athlete's arsenal of strategies to get them in the right frame of mind so that they can perform at their best. So let's look at some of these strategies in detail. Motivation is clearly very important.
Completely
And how do you
true.
get an athlete motivated? The most important things are the goals that they set.
Specific,
The goals that they set
meaningful,
will determine
agreed,
how much
relevant,
drive,
time,
how much effort,
specific,
how much
engaged,
will they have to
recorded.
perform well. But often a goal of
What
winning
was
is
the
not
name of
enough.
that thing?
Sometimes, or most times, it's important that an athlete has a number of sub-goals which are related to their performance. So things like personal best
SMA.
that drive them both in training
Smarter.
and in competition. It's important that those goals conform to certain features, and scientists, psychologists, and practitioners
A mnemonic
always
device
refer
that
to
he
this
was using.
SMARTER acronym. And that's because having goals that are realistic, relevant, specific, measurable, and so forth are really important when it comes to getting an athlete motivated. As I said earlier, motivation is not enough.
That's very true.
It is important that an athlete is confident. And there are a number of ways you can boost an athlete's self-confidence. Experience, reminding an athlete of their experience is extremely important. Modeling, and I don't mean catwalk modeling here, modeling is also an important aspect.
Imagery,
because that
self-talk.
enables an athlete to
Continuously
have a
tell yourself
model
you're the best,
or a
you're going to win,
blueprint, if you
you're going to
like,
win,
of
you're going
the
to win,
optimal
you're going to win,
performance.
you're going to win, you're going to win.
Imagery and self-talk are part of that, and we'll get onto those in a moment.
Makes you want to believe that you're
Feedback
going
is
to win.
clearly important as well. Positive
Whenever I'm
feedback
about to do something
from
big, I
the
always
athlete's
tell
coaches.
myself, I'm going to win. I'm gonna
Imagery
win.
is a
I'm
mental
gonna win. I'm
rehearsal,
gonna win.
and
I'm
it's
gonna
a strategy that
win.
many
After you
athletes
try to
use.
play in your head, you
And
winning.
here's the kinds of things that an athlete or a coach will go through when they're rehearsing a
Make you
performance.
wanna
It's
be
almost
the
like a video of their performance. They will also use prompts, but they will also visualize any contingencies that arise. For example, any barriers or problems or difficulties that arise during the course. of their competition. Here's an example of these kinds of strategies in action. This is Blanka Vladic. She was a former world champion, high jumper, and IAAF Athlete of the Year. And she was very famous for going through the same performance routine prior to a competition. She would close her eyes, visualize a successful jump. Yep. She would clap her hands rhythmically and use the audience, get the audience on board.
That is very well known. A lot of high jumpers do that.
And her confidence. And then she would practice some moves shortly before.
I don't know if it's because of her, but I know that a lot of high jumpers do that.
Self-talk is another strategy that athletes use. It's an extremely important strategy because it enables athletes to go through in their minds and use mantras to try and boost their motivation, but also to try and manage the competition and the situation. For example, the situation where the pressure is on and they are highly anxious.
I'm doing anything.
So
that's my
self-talk might have motivational components, but it also might help athletes focus on the important things that are relevant to performance, so-called cues, and it also might have a calming effect, things like breathe and relax.
And I just repeat it over and over and over and over until I win.
Aspect of sports performance. Clearly, at the Olympic Games, at World Championships, at the highest level, athletes are going to be under pressure.
Important. Learning how to breathe, stretching, music helps, meditation helps a lot.
Actually undermine an athlete's performance.
All of that is incredibly
So relaxation techniques are extremely important in this regard, and psychologists will work with athletes to try and help them to relax. So it might involve things like breathing, stretching, relaxing the muscles, but it'll also use things like music and meditation. Michael Phelps is a good example. He listens to music right up to the few minutes before his event.
Very
and
true.
that music will get him
Some athletes sleep right before that event.
It'll help him to relax, but
to relax and motivate themselves.
Here's a good example of somebody using those techniques to the greatest extent. This is Yelena Isinbayeva, double Olympic champion at the pole vault and also the world record holder. This is her at the 2012 Olympics. She's clearly very relaxed. She lies back, she covers herself in her clothes. This has the effect of shutting out any distractions, but it also has the effect of relaxing her and relieving the pressure.
Very true.
In terms of the mind-body winner, from a sports psychology perspective, an athlete has to be motivated, confident in their abilities, manage pressure extremely well, and use these well-drilled techniques like imagery, self-talk, and relaxation. Thank you.
Love this guy's TED Talk. Highly recommend you guys go watch it. Even though it's a little older, it's a few years older than most things that I cover. I still completely agree with it. There are things that I feel like are gonna always be important or have always been important. And these are certain traits that everybody should try to aim for. And everything that they do, it helps with everything. Whatever your goals are, and how I say write down your goals, organize yourself. This helps with all those. So that's the end of the video, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys want to see next, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye bye.